Okay, so we're going to talk now about composition of functions, which I like. This is one of my favorite. The composition of f and g, my pen is dying, is, I'm sure you've heard of it said this way, maybe your teacher said fog. Fog and Goff, maybe she said, or he. So what does that mean? That means, if you see fog, that means you are going to take the g of x function and plug it into the f everywhere you see an x. So it means, this right here, fog, means the f of the g of x. It means the function, entire function itself, acts as a number that you're plugging in for x into the f function. Similarly to what we just did before with the x plus h, we're going to plug an entire function in for f. Okay? So the composition of f and g is f o g of x, or f of the g of x. And then this is just a little bit about the domain. For all x in the domain of g, such that g of x is in the domain of f. For all x in the domain of g, such that g of x is in the domain of f. And I'm going to give you two functions now. So f of x being 2x minus 1. Oops. And g of x being 4 over x minus 1. And we're going to do simple ones with numbers, just like we started when we were doing the operations. Keep it simple, and then, we'll make it hard on you after. So let's find the fog of 2, the Goff of -3, and then the Foff. That's one of my favorites. The Foff of 4. Okay, so going back up to what it means to be a fog. You take the f of the g of x, the f of the g of x. So this right here, fog of 2, means the f of the g of 2. Okay, so you start here. You're going to put a 2 into the g function. So a 2 is going to go right here for the g function. 4 over 2 minus 1. 4 over 2 minus 1 is 4 over 1, which is 4. So this right here is 4. Now you're going to take the f of 4. You're going to plug 4 into the f function right here. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. That would be the fog of 2. So the 2 goes into the g, and then that answer goes into the f. Okay, let's do the Goff of -3. So that means I want the g of the f of -3. So I want to put a -3 into the f function first. So -3 times 2 is -6. -6 minus 1 is -7. So this right here is -7. And now I want to do the g function of it. So put a -7 right here for x. 4 over -7 minus 1. 4 over -7 minus 1 is 4 over -8. 4 over negative 8 is negative 1/2. That would be the golf. Let's do the FOF. So this time I want to put a 4 into the F and then put that answer back into F. I don't even use the G at all. So this is the F of 4. So we're going to put a 4 into X value for F function. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. But now I'm going to plug it back into the F again. Now I want to plug 7 back into the F again. So that would be 7 times 2 minus 1. 7 times 2 minus 1 is 14 minus 1, which is 13. And that's how you do very simple ones with numbers, fog and golf with numbers. Let's do one with just actual functions. F of x equals 4x plus 1, and then g of x equals 2x squared plus 5x. And let's just do one here. Let's find the golf of x. The golf of x. Okay, so I want to take the g of the f of x. That means I'm going to take my entire f of x function, this guy right here, and I'm going to plug him into the g everywhere I see an x. I see an x here. I see an x here. I got to plug that in everywhere I see an x. And I'm going to rewrite this function with that plugged in. So that would be, so my g function would start off with a 2. Instead of x squared, I'm going to replace that x with 4x plus 1 squared. Plus 5. And again, instead of x, I'm going to put 4x plus 1. And now you got to do algebra. I mean, that's why you're in pre-calculus. You should know how to do this stuff. So this, you have to FOIL out. Remember, this is, 4x plus 1 times another 4x plus 1, which would be 16x squared, plus 8x plus 1. But then there's a 2 outside of it. So 2 times 16x squared plus 8x plus 1. This would be 20x plus 5. And then I would distribute this 2. So this would be 32x squared plus 16x plus 2 plus 20x plus 5. And you still can combine like terms. So 16x and 20x and the 2 and the 5. And again, get in the habit of just putting things in order. So your final answer should be 32x squared plus 36x plus 7. That is the golf of x. If I asked you what is the domain and range, remember, for both of these, this domain is in this domain because they're both the same. This is from negative infinity to infinity, and so is this one. That's how we do composition of functions of numbers. Go ask Daddy. Go ask Daddy, okay? All right. Thank you. All right, I want to do one where we're looking at a graph and we're finding fog, and then I want to do one where we're also looking at a table, because again, it's going to be like this whole lovely time. And again, give me 1 minute to draw this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. So we'll do Mr. Parabola because he's pretty fun. 2, 4. So this is going to be the f of x. And then this one will be the g of x in the red line. And they're going to ask you, okay, find the fog from this graph of 2. Find the fog of 2. So again, I know it seems like annoying. Why does she keep doing this? But I like to always rewrite it. I like to write the f of the g of 2. That's what it means. So you need to go to 2 on the x right here, and you're going to tell me the g's y value, the g of 2, the g's y value. Well, here's 2 right here. The y value at this point is 0. Now we're going to find the f of 0. So that means, again, go to the x on x-axis, 0, and tell me what the blue line's y value is when you're at the x value of 0. Well, that's easy. I'm standing right at it again. I'm at 0. And so that's how you would want to read the graph. You want to start on the one line, tell me the y value, then put it into the other equation, tell me the y value. Let's do an example of a table. This time I'm going to draw the tables differently because they do it on homework. This time I'm going to draw 2 different tables like this, whereas last time I made it all one table. And this one I want to find the GOF. The GOF of 3. Okay. So again, I want to find the 3 from the F and then plug that answer in and find the G. Again, I like to write it like this. I want the G of the F of 3. So I'm going to go to 3 on my X, 3 on my X of the F function first. Here's the F function. Here's 3 of my X. But you choose the Y value. So this right here would be 0. The F of 3 is 0. Now I want the G of 0. So now I want to go to 0 on my other function. Here's 0x, but tell me what the Y value is. The G of 0 is 5. So that would be my answer. Hopefully that's making sense, how to read it from a graph and how to read it from a table. You're looking at the Y value. You have to go to the X first and tell me what the Y is. That's always what you're doing. Okay. This one is huge. This one is on your review basic quiz for sure, for sure, for sure. And I might do another example when we review for the quiz, but suppose you have an h of x. You have this function x squared minus 5 cubed minus 4 times x squared minus 5 plus 3. You have to find an f and a g such that the f of the g of x is equal to h of x. Don't let this be intimidating. It's not really that bad. It's kind of like a puzzle. Yeah, I think of it as a puzzle. But here's what they're asking. They've given you an h of x. They've given you this big, nasty looking function, you know, x squared minus 5 cubed minus 4 times x squared minus 5 plus 3. They're asking you to find something, some g of x function that you had to plug into f. So they want to know, they want you to find these two pieces of information. I wanted to know, what function did you plug into f to get you this? Well, here's how I look at it. First of all, I notice things that are repeating. Like, I'm like, okay, well, I look for parentheses to powers. I look for square roots. I look for things like that with powers, like, I don't know, cube. And I look for the things that are repeating. And I'm like, okay, this is repeating and this is repeating, right? And where it's repeating, I just replace it with an x. So I would call this my x cubed minus 4x plus 3. Now, what did I put in for those x's? What was the function that I put in? Well, it was that stuff that was repeating. X squared minus 5. I mean, think about it. Think about what we just did before. We took our entire g function right here. I feel like I need to get my highlighters out again. I'm sorry. I'm a highlighter girl. Okay. I would take this thing right here and I'd plug it in everywhere I see an X. Wouldn't I get out this? So see, it's not that hard. Look for what's repeating and look for the parentheses and the powers. Let's do another one of those. Just because I know it's on the quiz, and I know I think it's even on the test. I've seen it on the test too. Okay, let's do, so now h of x is 5 square root x plus 7. Find the f of the g of x. Find the f and the g is actually what I should say. Just like we did up here. Find out what was the f function and what was the g function. So again, working my way backwards. I have this. I need to know what was the f of x and what was the g of x. What was the smaller function that I plugged into a larger function to get me this? So like I said, look for those square roots or those parentheses. Right here is a square root. Replace it with an x and call that your f of x, 5x plus 7. So then what did I have to plug in here to be my g of x? Well, square root x. If I take a square root x and put it right there for x, I would get out that. Take a square root x, put it right there, I would get out x. So these can be complicated. They can be more like a puzzle, hopefully. All right. Yes, I am on, yes, the last thing that's on 2.6. And then, like I said, I want to just review real quick just a few examples of on the review basic quiz. This is a cost, revenue, profit. And I think we've done some very easy ones in like 1.6 lesson. But I just want to go over, because I saw that this was on your homework again. And you can write this all out. You don't have to. I'm just going to write it out for you so you understand what we're talking about. A businessman invests $1,500 to produce and sell satellite radios. Each device costs $100 to manufacture. Okay, so there's going to be a couple parts here. You need to write a cost function, which we've done before in the past, but we'll go over it again. You are going to find the revenue if each device sells for $125. Part C, you're going to find the profit function. And then I'll pull this up in a minute. Part D, how many items must be produced and sold before the company makes a profit? Okay. Pull this out a little bit. So we'll start up there. Look at the glare. I'm so sorry about the glare there. The shadow, actually. All right, businessman invests $1,500 to produce and sell satellite radios. Each device costs $100. Let's let X be, obviously, our satellite radio or radios. So the cost function is always, it's linear. It's always going to be a linear, like y equals mx plus b. So we call it C of x equals M, the amount that it costs to manufacture each one would be $100 per radio. And then the fixed price, which was B, our $1,500, because we had to invest $1,500. So we've done that before. That is our cost function. It's linear, mx plus b. What it costs you to start to invest, and then how much it costs per radio, if X is your radio. Now, revenue. And we've done revenue before too. There is a little formula, but revenue is equal to price times quantity. Price times quantity. And usually we use R of X. So R of X, if we're going to sell each one for $125, so it would be price of $125 times X of them. That would be our revenue function. Your profit function is equal to your revenue, I can't spell, minus your cost. Revenue minus the cost. So we're going to call it P of X for profit. My revenue was 125X minus my cost is, I'm going to put it in parentheses because I'm going to have to distribute that minus 100X plus 1,500. And clean this up. So that'd be 125 minus 100, which would just be 25X minus 1,500. This would be your profit function. Okay, last but not least, how many items must be produced and sold before the company makes a profit? So what I'm asking you is, when is this gonna finally get me above 0? So when is 25x, when is my profit larger than 0? And if you solve, let's see, you get 25x is greater than 1500, and 1500 divided by 25 is 60. So I would have to sell more than 60 radios. So I would have to sell at least 61 items, 61 radios, in order for me to finally start making a profit. Okay, and that, my friends, is the end of 2.6. Woo, lots of information. I'm always glad I only teach one lesson, this one lesson on this one night. Now, real quick, if you can bear with me. I know you've been doing well so far. I promise I'm going to let you go soon. If you don't want to stay for this, you don't, but I just want to refresh this with you real quick. Just 4 questions on this review basic quiz. Because, you know, I want you to all get 100. You've been doing so well. Review. There's 4 questions. Question number 1. Given h of x equals the fog of x. Oh, look at that. We just done it. And h of x is equal to 5 minus 2x squared. And g of x, this time they told us g of x is equal to 5 minus 2x. Can you find f of x? So that's a question you'll see on the quiz. So let me go through this again with you. Here's how I like to set it up. H of x is my big picture one. And the big picture is 5 minus 2x squared. F of x, since I'm doing f of g of x, the g of x is the smaller guy. So he's 5 minus 2x. I need to find that middle. Okay, so I need to say, what am I plugging this into to get this? What am I taking this and plugging it into to get this? Well, remember, wherever I see a parentheses or a power, I kind of box that in and I call that's my x value. So couldn't I just call f of x, x squared? If I took this 5 minus 2x and plugged it in right there, wouldn't I get that output? Wouldn't I get 5 minus 2x squared? So this is your answer for f of x. So you'll have a question just like that. Or 2 questions, actually. I think I made a little note here. 2. So they like it. Then you have a solving question, and this goes back to the absolute value stuff from a couple lessons ago. You have to solve for an equals. You have to solve for a greater than 7. And you have to solve for a less than or equal to 7. Okay? And let's just refresh how to do this. When you see an absolute value sign with an equals, that's not negative. You're going to write 2 equations. 1/3 x plus 5, just like it is, equals 7. Or start writing it again, 1/3 x plus 5, and you set it equal to a negative 7. And then you start solving. Minus 5 would be 2 times 3, x is 6. Same thing over here. Minus 5, 1/3 x equals negative 12 times 3, x is negative 36. So your solution set for this one would be 6 and negative 36. Now, if you remember correctly, it's going to be the same with these. You're going to have the same boundary point. So what you could do is test zones. Jack. My dog is ripping up something. Hold on one sec. No. No. Don't you touch that. He's ripping up the book, hon. So 6 and negative 36 would be here. Here's negative 36. Here's 6. And remember, we have these zones. So what you can do then is pick points in each of these zones. And really, it's either going to be an OR graph that looks like this, or it's going to be shaded in the middle. So really, you just have to test one. If this side is true, then that side is probably going to be true. And then that's where your answers lie. Or you can test right in the middle. If that's true, then that's where your answers lie. So I'm going to pick 0 because I just like picking 0 and it makes it easier on me. If I pick 0, which is right here in the middle, I would get the absolute value of 5 is greater than 7. Is that true? Is 5 greater than 7? No, that's false. So then I know that my answers are here and here. Would they be open or bracket? They'd both be open. And then how would I write this in interval notation? I would just write from negative infinity to negative 36, united with 6, whoop, parentheses 6 to infinity. So then obviously, what would that mean about this one with the less than? I still would have these boundaries of negative 36 and 6. And again, if I tested 0, I would now get the absolute value of 5. Is that less than or equal to 7? It sure is. So this is now true. So this is where I shade. Because this has an equal sign, I'm going to put a bracket. So my answer is from negative 36 to 6. So you will have a question just like this, all 3 parts. You will also have a question like this one, 2 absolute values. 2 absolute values. So now what do we do when we have 2 absolute values? Well, if it's an equal sign, it's actually not hard algebra. If it was less than or greater than, you'd have to do the zones. You'd have to find the boundaries, which we're about to do, and then do the zones. But I'm pretty sure it's an equal sign. So what I do is I write it just like it is without the bars. Then start to write it like it is on the left, but set it equal to the opposite of what's in the middle. So start solving this side. Let's minus x. We'd have 7x equal to negative 7. X is negative 1. This side will distribute negative x plus 5. And let's see, we'll add x over, so it'll be 9x, and then minus 2 over would be 3. So x is a third. And then if I were you, I would double check this and plug it into here and see if you get an answer that's equal to this one. So I'll just check this one real quick. Negative 8 plus 2 is 6, is the absolute value of 6. And then negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6, and the absolute value is negative 6. Negative 6 is 6, so that works. And then you can check that one, it will work also. So then your solution set would be negative 1 and a third. And then you have a piecewise function for the last one. And I showed you at the beginning